And there's a lot of early confusion with using the terminology in the cloud, but people pretty much understand now that it's a physical location that is highly secure, and it is actually more secure than down the hall in the building. Plus the backups and the redundancy for power, all the stuff that comes with using a large data center like AWS.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Aaron Reiter, Managing Partner of Sales and Marketing at InterProse. How you doing today, Aaron?
Great. How are you?
I am good, thank you. Appreciate you spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and about InterProse.
Well, we'll start with InterProse. InterProse has been around for around 27 years. Started as a small boutique software company, and about 12 years ago made the decision to start developing a more enterprise level platform. And 7 years ago now, they hired me to come in and retool the corporate image and sales and marketing strategy. My background, I have an advertising degree from Washington State University and a minor in social psychology, which apparently just groomed me for a career in sales. But I spent time in the wireless infrastructure market. I was 12 years as a medical sales representative, selling a procedure and technology for the treatment of various cancers. That had me away from my family a lot. So I started exploring some stuff that would keep me home. And a buddy of mine is the CTO here at InterProse and recruited me to, work on this initiative that they had to retool their external communications. So that has since turned into an ownership stake in the organization, which is fantastic.
Excellent. Well, that's quite a trajectory. And as somebody who used to spend a fair bit of time on the road, I like being home and I like my family and I want to be around, right?
Well, now that we work from home, it's we kind of marinate in it, which is
it's gone too far in the other direction. Now you want to go back on the road?
Well, there are moments. I'm sure my wife would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about what InterProse is doing these days. What sort of platform you got?
So InterProse offers it's a SaaS software model, and it is in the financial services vertical. Our specific target audience is specializes in the recovery of delinquent debt. So whether it's the third-party space of contingency debt recovery or first party, where we actually work with the companies that are the original creditors and want to manage that process themselves. So oftentimes the debt will be charged off and other times it is just what we call early out or in its beginning phases of delinquency. But the platform that we've developed it's an open architecture SaaS browser delivered platform that is, man, it's almost infinitely adjustable. There's a knob for just about everything to suit everybody's secret sauce. Honestly, when I came into the market, I didn't even conceive that each of these strategies would be different with each of the customers, but there are so many subspecialties in this space that having the platform be developing a platform that has the ability to be configured to that customer's needs has been part of the messaging that I was kind of tasked with conveying to the market.
I'm going to guess that unfortunately in this economy, there's far too much of a need for a platform like yours.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, we kind of go down a complete rabbit hole of the debt recovery space and how it's villainized and my own journey of my own personal impressions of what this market would be like and what it actually is. And that could be a whole hour. But they work this really interesting balance of a tightrope act between the creditors who supply the account that's delinquent, and then the consumers or commercial entities or whoever the responsible party is who owes the debt. And that's where the money comes from. So they're actually getting paid by the consumer, but they have to satisfy these two individuals or entities that have diametrically opposed goals. So what we found is the collection agencies or departments actually know people better than anybody I've ever met. And they are mediators, and they have amazing skills at diffusing tension. And the folks that run these agencies tend to be legacy family-owned businesses that go back 3 generations. And it's just been a fascinating market to serve.
You got to
really
human onion at every turn in that sort of equation.
Totally. Yeah.
What are the most common problems you're solving for your clients?
Oftentimes it is the manual processes that they engage in and have always engaged in. So having the ability to take an objective process that is redundant and makes work suck, and having the ability to automate it in some way with a platform that has process automation native to it, is life-changing for a lot of these folks. And I'll tell you an interesting story just as a kind of a microcosm example of where this can be applied. Invoicing clients for our customers can be an arduous task, and they can have hundreds of clients that are kind of giving small numbers of account. And it means that their monthly invoicing can take days. It would spill into the next month by a week as they're reconfiguring reports and doing all these manual tasks and making sure that the information is delivered to each client in the way the client wants it to be delivered. So we had a user meeting in Nashville, and we had some of our existing customers and some of our prospective customers there. And one of the prospective customers was detailing this the situation that they have every single month. It's the month end spills into the next month. And somebody laughed in the back of the room. And I was like, oh, why is that funny? Right. And she didn't think it was funny either. So our prospective customer, who is now a customer, actually, she whips her head around and she's like, I don't think it's funny. And he's like, oh no, I'm not laughing at you. I swear I know what you're talking about, because that was my life before I upgraded my software. And now the last day of the month, I go home at 5 o'clock and the reports run overnight and the remits go out, and I'm home making dinner with my family. It changed my life. So for us, the communicating to the prospective customers that it's not just a professional change that you should expect, but a personal one. And we change lives. And that's rewarding. That's pretty fun.
If you can solve a problem and change the work-life balance at the same time, I mean, that's an invaluable service, right?
I think so. Yeah. It's kind of, it's an interesting, subjective, almost intangible thing to try to convey in a way that resonates and doesn't sound salesy or smarmy. Like, you don't want to be a collection software company that says we change lives, but we kind of do. And that's not, there's an interesting story about a copper mine in Utah. And I don't know if it's, one of the big ones but they supply copper primarily to a medical device firm. So their slogan is "We save lives." They're a copper mine, and the whole staff's behind it, and they get this culture that they have where they buy in as a miner, as somebody who drives the truck down into the copper pit. All these folks. If anybody asked them, family, friends, strangers at a party, what do you do? Their first response is, "I save lives." And I find that inspiring. Like I would, any company, if you could kind of get behind that kind of messaging, would be very powerful, not for employer retention and for recruiting, but also for your messaging to your market. And people like to be part of a story. They like to be part of something that is bigger than, just a software application that they're going to be paying monthly for.
Absolutely. Aside from this ability to shift the landscape in the work-life balance equation, what differentiates you in the market? What makes InterProse stand out from its competition?
Most of our competition is still offering on-premise or hosted solutions where the customer is still kind of responsible for the infrastructure. So it might be a local a warehouse or something where they've got servers that are off-site, but it's still like having it in the closet down the hall. It's just not in their business, building four walls. Offering a true SaaS solution where the monthly commitment comes with the infrastructure behind it that supports it, the audit certificates, the compliance certificates, all the things that we're able to supply as a nature, through the nature of our AWS infrastructure and the way it's architected, is a differentiator for us. And honestly, we were ahead of our skis. When I first came on 7 years ago, the businesses that we were talking to were still not too sure about data in the cloud. Like, what is that? And why would I want it in the cloud? I like it down the hall. I know where it is. And it's so, and there's a lot of, early confusion with using the terminology in the cloud, but people pretty much understand now that it's a physical location that is highly secure, and it is actually more secure than down the hall in the building. Plus the backups and the redundancy for power, and all the stuff that comes with using a large data house like AWS. So that turns out to be a pretty big differentiator for us in the market, especially now that everybody's actually clamoring for that kind of service instead of owning it and maintaining servers. Let's do that. They're one of our lines is like, you focus on collections, we'll take care of the rest of the stuff, right? You focus on what you do. And I think as any service provider, if you can convey that you're going to take care of the minutia, or you're going to take care of the things they're not professionally trained to do in a way that they're highly proficient, or aren't wasting their time learning something that they're not actually going to make money from. That's a pretty powerful message to be able to convey. And that's been another pretty big differentiator for us, for sure.
Hey, in 2023, people have to wear a ton of hats at work and get more done than they've ever been asked to. So if you can free them up to do what they were there for in the first place, that's a huge win, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you can tell your customers that they're going to have more time to go grow their business, you're going to facilitate that, and their bandwidth is going to increase as a result of the investment they make in whatever you're providing. Big deal.
What verticals are you servicing? Who are your clients with this product?
Well, I think right now our numbers are, our majority is a third party contingency-based debt recovery space. So your classic collection agency. And a variety of verticals, everything from commercial to consumer to government focus, or education debt, a lot of healthcare debt, honestly. And then our next largest segment is the first party, or the original creditors, companies that manage their own debt internally. Sometimes the metric there is that they don't want to be perceived as sending it to an agency, or they're desperate to maintain the relationship with the customer, and they just want to get them right, so that because a consumer will come back and spend money at their grocery store or whatever. Those highly competitive markets that are low margin, they really cannot afford to lose a customer, so they tend to keep those debts in house. And the last my kind of minor space, I think, would be the government space. Counties, cities, those folks are longer sales cycles, large RFP projects. Decision makers are had a lot of stakeholders in those arrangements, and early on, we didn't have an infrastructure to kind of support that, so that's been growing over the last 5 years.
Excellent. Let's talk about the last couple of years. I'm going to assume that the collections industry was very busy during COVID as people lost jobs and had health crises and all sorts of things like that. Tell me how you managed to sustain and grow your business through COVID.
Counterintuitively, anybody listening to this is going to be like, "Oh yeah, I bet that was a hard time." It wasn't. The government stipends for the COVID monies that came out, the number of folks who were unemployed or underemployed during that period of time wasn't that big. I mean, from a percentage basis of the country. So yeah, yes, there were folks who were struggling, and those stipends helped them get through that period of time to, obviously a point now where we're running very low unemployment rates. But it was a boon to the collection space because everybody got the money, regardless of what their employment status was, which meant they had all this extra cash to pay off these debts. Because and they saw, I mean, it was like boom times for the agencies. They were reporting amazing financials during that period of time. For us, it was great. I don't want to classify it as us benefiting from a pandemic, because that wasn't how this, it should be phrased. But the government's response to the pandemic in terms of giving out, stipends to folks regardless of their employment status meant that a lot of the population had the extra capital, to pay down their debts. And now actually it's coming out of COVID where the industry is having to regroup and figure out what to do without that, the influx of capital to the man on the street.
I had no idea that was going on. I didn't realize people were behaving themselves with those government handouts and using them to pay down debt as opposed to just, existing.
Oh no, for the most part, people do the right thing with money. The individual, if you look at the data right now on the individual debt profile, we are again approaching a period when the average American citizen is living beyond their means again, which is not a good sign. But the debt recovery industry is typically relatively insulated from economic ups and downs. During down times, the economy is down and the unemployment's up. There are more accounts that are sent out, right? There's more debts that are sent off for recovery. Now the recovery rate is lower, but by percentage, it evens out. As soon as the economy is doing really well and people have money to pay their debts, there's fewer debts being sent off or fewer placements. We call them placements in the industry. But the recovery rate is higher, so it kind of evens out. Like, it's a relatively insulated market from the economic ups and downs. They have their own issues with when they're comfortable investing in their business, and that impacts us directly as an organization that benefits when those companies invest. But from if you look at their overall trajectory, year over year, income has been relatively stable. Correlating to technology, however, what can they achieve with the same number of employees? We're seeing the number of employees drop because technology has taken the space of employees in many places. They just don't need the people to do the manual work anymore. Or they can make one person be so much more efficient with so many more accounts, which is part of actually what our role is in the organization.
Yep. Excellent. All right. Let's put on your marketing hat for a second.
Okay.
What role has content played in the growth of InterProse?
Initially, it played a significant role. When I came on, they had a spaghetti against the wall, kind of strategy, and they're using Google AdWords and trying to use Facebook, and it was very ineffective. The marketing directly to consumers is not this is a B2B sale. So I chose to pursue a content strategy in order to boost our SEO, make sure that when a business searched for, say, debt collection software, that our company would come up and hopefully get on the first page. First page is really hard to get to in our space. I think I went through that with you the other day, in that a lot of the software comparison websites take up the majority of the first page roles. And then something changed, and I kind of stopped writing the blog posts or getting those done because it didn't appear to be making any difference at all. And I attended a couple of seminars where like the Google algorithm has changed and it's no longer, weighting those as heavily on the new content. And you need to focus on H1 and H2 tags. And I don't know, man, it's all alchemy to me. So I was pivoted to a strategy where I provided content in the form of speaking events. So I wormed my way into the trade show circuit as a speaker, and kind of got more visible through the organization by branding the organization around that content strategy, being a technology leader, but doing it in person. So now we're going back to a point where online content is probably a good investment to start making as well. So,
it most certainly is. Oddly enough, some people seem to think of blogs as passe. They've been around for a while. Given Google's most recent algorithm updates, they may be more effective now than ever in terms of that sort of consistency in messaging and volume and velocity of content that Google's looking for. A blog is a straight line to getting and keeping their attention. So,
at least for the next year or so.
It seems a little cyclical, as it were, but it's definitely a very viable tool in 2023. All right, let's look a year down the road at 2024. What are some things you'd like to be celebrating personally and professionally?
I mean, now that I'm an owner, a lot of that stuff has to do with profit margin and gross income and number of customers and stuff. I hired another salesperson who was kind of a well-known industry personality. And a year from now, if I'm being updated at meetings about his activity rather than sitting on every call or performing product demonstrations for him, oh man, that's going to be that'll be a fun time. But overall for the organization, a year from now, our goal is to have built our name up in a couple more verticals within our space. So, like first party space and others where we're establishing footholds to help grow the organization.
Excellent. Please tell us, what's your URL? Where can people find InterProse, and what social media outlets are you using these days as well?
All right. So InterProse is a made up word, Inter, INTER, and Prose, PROSE. So INTERPROSE.com, which originally was mashed together because Inter being between, Prose being language. And the original product was a data mapping tool. So that was the beginnings of how the organization was named. So interprose.com is where we can be found. Being it's B2B, our primary social media presence is on LinkedIn.
Gotcha. Aaron Reiter of InterProse, thank you for spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. I wish you and yours all the best and continued success at InterProse.
Thanks, Andrew.
My pleasure.